So welcome to the T2X Mission 13 commentary. If you haven't cheated and you've listened all the way through, thanks very much. This is the last mission. And here we have our third cutscene. This was one of our biggest and most important cutscenes. This is where the plot shifts dramatically, and Malik is really it comes out and is revealed as a true bad guy. Yeah. And players may have picked up on it much earlier, but
obviously,
Zaya as a character really has everything revealed to her right here, and realizes that all of her plans are for naught, and that we're really creating a tragedy and not really a hero story.
Right. Yeah, and as Valletta's mentioned many times, and I think I mentioned earlier, again, we weren't trying to conceal the fact from her or the player that he was a bad guy. I mean, she knew it, but she was trapped in a situation where she needed a powerful ally. And she is a bit she's easily persuaded, a little bit gullible and that kind of thing, because just because of her background, especially at the beginning. But obviously, as time goes on, she starts to realize that his intentions are not entirely honorable, and just the horrible thing here that she's where she realizes, okay, and the player too. I've done all this work and gone to all this trouble, and it's like I say, it's for naught.
There's no hope for Kadar here. And we had this was very challenging because we needed to communicate not only that Malik had been manipulating her, but also that he was using the scales as a force of evil, and the scales were kind of this all-powerful object that could not only raise the dead but summon creatures from another dimension. So he calls out his own servant here, this demon from a parallel universe that exists and serves him under his command.
And that was another what we really felt like was kind of a loose end from Thief 2. Who really killed Truert? They mention a beast. They talk about that nothing human can move that fast, and so on. And it was never really answered. We just assume it was a
tree beast
or
a
beast,
or
but obviously something pagan in origin, because of the connection between Mosley and the pagans and all that. But it was just never really
fleshed out, so
resolved.
It's
so
kind
of
an opportunity for us to make a tie-in right there and to really transport the player directly into that experience.
Right.
So here we have the very end of the cutscene. I guess I'll just mention really quickly that this is a recognizable location. This is Malik's mansion from the very first mission, Unexpected Shelter. And Mad God built in the original rough out for the mansion, and we took a draft of that and we sent it to the cutscene guys, the Darkcraft guys, and they basically made their own high poly version. And you saw the version in there with all the railings and all the upgraded textures and so forth. And then we, in turn, got resources from them. We got some textures from them, like the wall textures in here and the stairs and the stone and all that are all done by them. So we, in turn, reapplied their high poly version art here, and then we made some versions of their railing and so forth to add in here. So it was very much a back-and-forth process to get to get the mansion in the mission space and the mansion in the cutscene space to resemble one another, but they actually ended up being very close because of that.
Yeah. This may not be the best place to mention it, but it's kind of on the same topic. Some people have commented on the Egyptian symbols and the pyramids and all that appeared in some of the cutscenes and briefings with Zaya, and it's another one of those issues where the design team and the plot team and the art, you're not sitting in the same room together, and so a lot of times artwork comes back that is not exactly what you had in mind. I mean, we didn't intend for Zaya for anybody to think that she came from Egypt, because obviously that puts her in a real place in the real world, and Thief is not.
Yeah, Thief is a fictional universe. We wanted, I think, originally a Egyptian influenced art, and I think they, it was just taken like half a step too far. But,
right.
That never really bothered me, and some people commented on it, but
Yeah. Well, it was also an issue, but we had the artwork. It would do for the time being, but then when you start realizing these guys have 50 pieces of art they got to churn out, for these briefings and stuff, do you really want to have them go back and redo that, or would you rather have them go ahead and finish working on, the
something
rest of the
else,
project?
Higher priority, yeah.
Right. So it would have been nice to have gotten rid of some of that, but it just wasn't a high priority in light of everything that had to be accomplished.
So we wanted to transport the player back and show him a little bit of this assassination right, or put them in there right as Truart's assassination happened, and that would tie everything fictionally together, the events of Thief 2 and the events of T2X, and put everything into context.
Which created a host of problems.
Yeah, but we didn't really know how we were going to do it, like where the player was going to be, how close she was going to be to the assassination, or what the gameplay would be. We tried a couple different things. At the very beginning, I think right before Mazur left, he tried creating a little space with an overlook that overlooked the mansion. So you actually see it like through kind of like a hole in the wall, but there are problems with that setup. It wasn't really quite immersive enough, and it didn't put you in the experience enough, and it kind of forced the player to look in a certain direction. You can never guarantee the player's going to do that. So when we were doing subsequent drafts of the map, we tried placing the player actually on the balcony of the mansion, of Truart's mansion, and that actually seemed to work, because it would make sense that the beast would teleport somewhere right near where Truart's going to be, and then kill him, and then escape, and then to put the player in that exact location means that they're going to be highly immersed and right there with the experience as it's happening. And then there was the question also technically of whether or not we were going to update architecture from Thief 2, because when we first started out, Thief 2 looked fine.
Right.
A year or two into the project, it started looking pretty dated.
Yeah.
So we were kind of curious as to how we could ramp it up, but really make it still recognizable. And what we ended up doing really was just adding kind of the smoother curves where there was the chunky like 8-sided cylinders before. I think ours were like 16 or something. And then we added some fog and some rain, and I think we left almost everything else the same. So it's definitely recognizable, but it's just enough of a change to give it like a little bit of a visual kick.
Right. Here we have Oleander. This was a little bit of a plot complication too. Is how are we going to convey this information to? Zaya still didn't have all the information that we really needed her to have. And of course, obviously, the pagans were behind this assassination of Truart, so the idea came to actually place a pagan in game. Again, reminiscent of what happened in Precious Cargo when the pagan in the freezer case dies, gives Garrett some necessary information and then dies. It was kind of an easy thing to fall back on, but we really didn't know what else to do there. And we wanted to kind of get into the gameplay as quickly as possible, so we didn't want to do that through a document at the beginning. We had him give some information, and then of course Malik conveniently drops pages of his diary,
which you can pick up and read.
Which happens all the time in real life. When you're chasing a bad guy, they drop their dastardly plans along the way as a breadcrumb trail to their lair. But this was a mission that we really felt like should be a lot more like the last mission in the Dark Project, more than the last mission in the Metal Age. We wanted something that was about the same length and size and scope as the Maw, rather than a Soulforge type mission.
Yeah, we were very conscious of pacing. We felt really at this point players are going to want to be done because they know who the bad guy is. All the mysteries have been revealed. Right. They have all their weapons and items. There's nothing else to get. Really, you want to complete the story arc and finish the plot. And so really we didn't want a mission that was any longer than 30 minutes. We wanted to keep this very action-oriented, not puzzle-oriented, not a key hunt. Right. But just kind of an interesting way to move through space and deal with some new AIs. This is our one pagan mission where we have Rat Beast from Thief 1 that we brought back for this mission, because in Thief 2 they were 8 beasts for some reason. We like the Rat Beast better.
We like the Rat Beast.
Yeah, and the Bug Beast that spew insects at you. And the fictional idea is that this isn't the Maw, but the use of the scales and the power that it generates are kind of opening up this kind of rift in space time that's allowing some elements of the Maw to bleed through. And so outside of Malik's little secret hideout here, he's got some rat beasts and stuff walking around.
I love the waterfalls.
Yeah,
I know it looks so dated now, but
totally. A lot of our art does, frankly, but yeah. But
this far in the future, this far down the road.
Yeah, but anyway, the glade that you saw out there was originally, the first draft of that was originally built by Avalon. He built a really interesting kind of maw space with those really tall like cave walls and like this path that went up along the outside, and it wasn't quite finished. It was just it was like some brush geometry and some details and some vegetation, but it really sold me on the idea of what the glade could be. And so this is another mission that I developed later on, that I took over later on, developed with him, and it kind of used that base geometry that he built and developed a more final look for it. And one of the most important things, I think, was atmosphere here. So, before even putting in any detail or finalizing the path, I played with fog and lighting and, some of the creatures moving around through the space to see how it would all play out. And it worked out. These big tall trees and the path that he built up the side of the mountain all contributed a lot to the atmosphere and the interesting player path up through here.
Right. The other thing I was I'm thinking about as far as plot, we've got the note from Victoria. It was kind of a difficult thing because we consider Victoria like a big character in the Thief games, but when you really get down to it, she has some brief conversations with Garrett in the cutscenes and briefings and things like that, but it was really tough trying to figure out what kind of voice she would have on paper, and I think it's been observed she kind of comes out sounding like Yoda, unfortunately, in the note, and I can definitely see that, but it was just kind of tough to. She has a lot of different ways of talking in the cutscenes. There's sometimes when she really sounds very paganish and uses some of the words and the inflections that they use, and there's other times where she just sounds like a normal human woman when she's planning some things with Garrett there at the end of T2. So it was kind of tough to figure out. I
love that.
Yeah, I love throwing them over the edge. But it was just tough to figure out in a written text like we have here exactly how she would communicate. In writing, and again,
that's another little piece of information that says that Victoria knows who Malik is, and,
right.
And she's dispatched Oleander to be the one to kill Truart, but Malik kind of beats her to the punch and is attempting to usurp her power, and she thinks Malik is a guy who needs to be taken out, but of course those plans are thwarted. Oleander is wounded, and the Beast is the one who kills Truart and then escapes.
And the idea is if Zaya had not gone ahead and pursued Malik here and killed him and gotten rid of the Beast, that they would have been a major threat to Garrett, and that was kind of a way to make what she's doing here very important, even though she can't save Kadar, and she's essentially got her ship back and she could leave. Justice needs to be served. She wants to see this through to the end, but it also allows the player to feel like we're helping Garrett out here. We're doing something. He doesn't know that we're actually saving him from the same fate that Truart just suffered, but and she doesn't know. But it's just kind of a nice little way again to tie it into the original missions and lend some a little more gravity to what's happening and make it very important as it pertains to the original games. Mm-hmm. So got a cozy little bedroom here with again more of his. It's one of those movie cliches that they talk about. That if you're a bad guy and you really want to rule the world, don't ever write your evil plan out in a book because someone will find. Don't ever put it on a computer. But here again, you got to convey the information to the player in a way that's immersive, that doesn't pull them out of the. The environment and out of the fantasy, and the readables are just really the best way to do that in the Thief universe.
And they're pretty sparse here. For pacing, we wanted to keep a bare minimum of readables here. I think there's probably half a dozen in the whole map or so, and we just wanted to keep things moving.
This area was a little bit bigger to begin with, wasn't it? Didn't we kind of pare this back, or
a little bit, but not very much really. This was always about the same size. I was kind of wondering how much abstraction we could get away with, because Into the Maw of Chaos at the end of Thief 1 was very abstract, and we wondered if Malik's hideout would be more realistic or more kind of pagany, and maybe this is a little too abstract, this little tunnel down into here. But this was an isolated area. This is the climax room. This is a big underground room, kind of like what you see in A Trail of Blood, obviously very pagan themed with trees and caves and so forth. And the idea here was basically just to create a scenario that was very challenging, but could be won in a number of ways, and give the player a lot of opportunities to use their tools, and that was really difficult to do.
And this is another opportunity. We haven't really had Malik as a character in the gameplay yet. He's always been in cutscenes, and so we kind of get to see him here and interact a little bit in combat. And Chris Snyder, that did the voice for Malik, got an opportunity to kind of do some typical thief barks, come out and I know you're hiding there, and these kind of things, which again, for him being unfamiliar with the Thief universe, he had no clue why he was saying these things, because it seems ridiculous, but we had to have it, and he really came through and did a good job.
Yeah, and some nice crazy idle barks too.
Yeah,
but just gameplay wise, we wanted to give him a number of powers, and instead of fireballs, so we had him summon fire elementals, which is pretty scary because they can get out of hand real fast. And we gave him like a little heal spell where he can heal himself. He's completely vulnerable to all normal weapons. We gave him a bunch of hit points, but he doesn't have any kind of special charms or protection other than the heal spell. Yeah. And then so the scales are there, and Oleander explains. He's chasing me all around. Oleander explains that the scales are what allow Malik to control the beast, and so when you steal them, the beast turns hostile and is able to take out Malik, and that's how we make this mission ghostable, without forcing the player to do any damage directly.
Right. And the tree beast is obviously based on the tree beast. The beast is based on the tree beast model, which was really underused, I think. It
was this big lumbering form, it just walks around, and there you go. Like when they fight each other, there's no way Malik can win. Like, we wanted to make a big dramatic death. Originally, he just, fell to the floor in a death animation, but there we spew blood out of him and have him spin around and blow up, It
was kind of anticlimactic.
And now with the beast, we do kind of the same thing. When the scales are destroyed, you can either blow them up with your own explosives or throw them in the lava. And here we just do some particle effects and explosions, and he blows up, and then we're on to the final cutscene.
Yeah.
So hang on.
And she wins.
So
money shot.
This was a very complicated scene. Set up by the Darkcraft guys again. Another great cutscene that they managed to do here. Just 3 guys. And in this last cutscene here, this is where we wanted to reintroduce the Keepers kind of to the player, because they really haven't been a part of the story at all up to this point. But we felt they're such an important part of the universe that we need to address them somehow. Right. And it's kind of nice to see them here kind of observing everything and commenting and making their own kind of strange predictions and prophecies about what happened and what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the mention of Garrett, in kind of a roundabout way, they talk about Garrett and that she's not the one and he is, and all that kind of stuff. So kind of putting the player back in mind of the events of Thief 2 and Artemis's involvement, in the life of Garrett and all those things. But she heads home, and again, it's a tragic hero story. There's the money shot right there.
Off into the distance. So the music kicks in here. This is, great audio stuff, lots of dialogue and ambient here. The levels were a little bit off in the version 1.0 that we shipped. It's actually kind of funny. The cutscene guys, the Darkcraft Studios guys, lost their all their original tracks in a hard drive crash, and so we were stuck with a mix at the end, which was just a little bit less than perfect, where the music was a little bit too loud. It kind of drowned things out. So for version 1.0, we actually had Paul Fox come in, and I don't know how he did it, but he somehow managed to deconstruct the audio and tone the music down, and we finally got the audio and the cutscenes that we really wanted. But I think regardless, it was a really strong end here, and so now we have the credits.
Yeah, it's just amazing, all the people that worked on this, and some of them just contributed very little, and some of them contributed a lot, but, it was all important to get it done. And again, we've kind of been saying throughout that even though we did have to make kind of some executive decisions at times, you can really see from looking at this that it truly was a community project, that so many people contributed to, and it was just amazing to me that we actually saw it all the way through and got it done.
And people from all over the world too. I mean, we had people from Australia and Russia and Canada, from all over the U.S., and Spain and Great Britain, and man, I don't know, Holland, everywhere else, any place you can possibly think of. I think we had people.
And you see guys. Some of these guys are not even around anymore at TTLG, but some of them are. I mean, there's the Black Man. There's My Old Name Broke, and just looking through here, of course, Sam and Digital Nightfall, and of course we have to thank Dan and Sam for letting us take up all the massive amount of bandwidth at TTLG on the servers, for coordinating all
this.
And really, just all the people at TTLG. I mean, it was kind of a labor of love in a sense that we wanted to honor Looking Glass, but it was also something that we wanted to do for the benefit of the community, and to kind of inspire the community. And
so here we go. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.